ultimately going to require a national security response.
All right, President Obama expelled those 35 Russian diplomats, closed the compounds that were in D.C., we all remember, and then issued sanctions. But the current administration right now, this president tweeted, Obama was president up to and beyond the 2016 election, so why didn't he do something about Russia meddling, insinuating he didn't do enough. Do you agree with that?
Well, look, I think it's fair to ask ourselves, if this particular project was as big as the news media claims it was, then why didn't the National Security Agency, or why didn't the FBI, why didn't the Central Intelligence Agency? I mean, somebody's supposed to pick it up. So you'd have to say to yourself, there's a long stretch in there where either the system broke down or we have a much deeper need to rebuild our security system. And this is not about Obama personally, but that whole structure, you have to say to yourself, if it was as big as Mueller seems to think it was, somebody should have noticed.
Absolutely right, because look where we are now. Meanwhile, New, let's talk a little bit about this. There's a national conversation now about school violence. There's a brand new Washington Post poll out that shows, ask people, mass shootings are a reflection of what? Well, 57% say problems identifying and treating people with mental health problems, whereas 28% say inadequate gun laws. So it does look as if people, for the most part, a majority feel it's a mental health issue and not a we need more gun laws issue.
Well, my last newsletter, I outlined what I think is the only long-term solution, which is to have, depending on the size of the school, a minimum of 6 to 8 teachers and administrators who are trained in the use of firearms and have concealed carry permits and are prepared to defend the kids. You know, we've had this experiment. I thought the sheriff in Florida said it perfectly when he said, we've experimented with a gun-free zone. It's called a school. Every school in the country is supposed to be a gun-free zone. If gun control worked, how come it didn't work? And I think we have to be realistic. We're not going to confiscate guns on a scale to make us a disarmed country. And the truth is, sooner or later, somebody's going to slip through the net, because the civil liberties problem, if you go out and you pick up every person who's a little weird, you are really infringing on the right of people to be free, which is not to say the particular killer in Florida or the particular killer in Orlando earlier. I mean, there are people you should be able to track down, but it's not as easy and not as obvious except after the shooting.
Right, true. But there seem to be so many red flags here, and the FBI already admitted they dropped the ball. But here's an example of nobody I know watching, listening, looking at you are saying that Nicholas Cruz should have had a gun. But if his background check is clean, there's a problem with the background check. Don't you agree? Is there a way to weave in the police reports, which there were plenty? Is there a way to do that, to get that into the background check, so the gun owner doesn't feel like his life is ruined because he, on some level, might be complicit on this sale? So how do we stop the next Nicholas Cruz from getting a gun?
Well, first of all, you're not going to stop all of them, which is why I think we have to have some kind of armed defenders who are also school teachers or administrators in every school in the country. Second, I noticed that President Trump did strongly support what Senator Cornyn is trying to do. Senator Cornyn does have a bill which expands the gun check.